Welcome to another video from Campus Wheelworks. My name's Ethan, and today we're going to talk about how to clean your bike, especially while riding in winter riding, mud, salt. Basically, it can be applied to anything, summer or winter, but right now we're in the middle of a Buffalo winter, and my bike has just seen a very salty, cold, dirty gravel ride. So it's in desperate need, and I figure why not shoot a little video and show what we go through when we clean a bike, which is a service we offer here at Campus Wheelworks. You can do them as a one-off deal. We also offer a season-long unlimited service where you can pay us to do this for you. But this is some best practices and tips to clean your bike without damaging anything, because sometimes cleaning certain things in certain ways can cause more damage than help. So let's get started. First thing I do is get it all wet, because odds are it has dried by this point. And everything is easier to clean off when it's wet. So in doing so, I try not to blast any high pressure water directly at the important bearings on the bike. Those would be both your hubs, your bottom bracket, and your headset. You also want to take some care with your brakes, though it's also good to kind of blow any extra gunk out of there. So let's get the whole thing wet here. Whoa. Somebody must have been taking paint off a car with this thing. There we go. I'm going to use the shower setting on this head, which gives us kind of that sort of situation. This is our new bike wash that we have built at our new shop on Niagara Street, 1330 Niagara Street, Campus Niagara as we call it. And basically it's just a plastic wall. We got a drain in the floor, as you may see, and you can also rig this up in your shower if you really want to get creative. Tough to clean a bike in the middle of the winter in Buffalo, so that's why I had to bring mine here to do it. I couldn't do it at my house either, so that's why it might make sense for some people just to pay us to do this service. But when you have the ability, this is how I'd do it. So like I said, we'll just get it all wet. I kind of do everything from the top down, top to bottom. In this orientation, that's kind of back to front. Then we can flip it around. Same. Call this the rinse cycle. Okay, now that it's wet, I've got some soapy water here, and I just use basically dish detergent. You don't have to use anything crazy. I would err on the side of less heavy duty degreasers than more. Just like generic dish soap is my preferred. And we're just gonna suds it down, starting at the top, working our way down. Tires are especially pain to clean. Probably my least favorite thing to clean, especially on a mountain bike where they really get gunked up. The rims are real good. Just gonna flip this around. Frame. Now the cassette and drivetrain components here are especially important. So I like to get the brush. I've got this nice big brush. I believe this is a Pedro's brush. Park also makes some pretty good ones. You could probably also just get something from the hardware store if you so desire. Just gonna put that on there, back pedal it around. A little scrubby scrubby. That's why I go with dish soap instead of like a heavy degreaser, because if it finds its way near bearings and things like that and seals, it's not gonna just get all the good grease that you want in the bike out of it. Same thing with the chainring here. Trying to scrub all the gritty, grimy salt and road grime out of there. Derailleur pulleys. Don't get your brush stuck in there. Bottle cages. Super muddy, gnarly bottle cages will eat through your bottles quicker, so might as well clean them while you're at it. Get some down the fender. Light. Safety pizza. Bars, grips. I had bar mitts on, so most of them are pretty clean. Accessories like fenders. And front wheel. The rim real good. The part that we'll get to eventually here is kind of depressing, is that this won't be the last time we touch all these parts, because if we just rinse it off and let it dry, half the dirt will still be on it and it'll just look all funky. So we'll be going through and wiping everything down by hand too. This is kind of just the rough wash. Disc brake rotors. Suds them up. Disc brake calipers. Again, this is why I use mild dish detergent, so it won't contaminate my brake pads. As many cleaners or anything that leaves an oily residue will definitely ruin your disc brake pads, and you don't want that. Front disc brake. Get under your bottom bracket if your bike's hanging up. All right. Now we rinse her off. Basically the same as before. Start at the top, work your way down. Flip it around. Then I basically let that puppy drip dry for a little bit, and then we're going to take it over to the repair stand and go over it all with a rag, basically. I also use an air compressor to kind of blow the extra water and grit and grime and salt out of important parts of the bike. You may not have access to that. I suppose you could get like canned compressed air, but I've never known anybody to actually do that. It's just an idea. Time will also dry things out, but getting that water out of there before it causes any damage is also nice, especially in the hard to get to places like disc brakes and the chain and derailleur bits. But let's go give that a try. All right, we're back. We're now over at the repair stand with my beautiful all-city Macho King, my fabulous cyclocross, gravel, do-anything bike that I've been riding this winter for the first time and really trying not to ruin. So that's why I'm going through this extensive cleaning. Mostly in the winter, I end up riding my fat bike, which is mostly on the snow, on trails. We occasionally get some mud, but mostly it's frozen. They don't get too dirty, and they don't see any road salt, so I can go most of the winter without ever cleaning my bike, which is a beautiful thing for a bike mechanic. But this year we've been doing some gravel rides, which have been really fun, but there is the cost or the threat of damage caused by salt. So that's what we're doing here. So the next thing I'm going to do is go through and we're going to use the air hose to blow everything off. Hopefully it doesn't blow out your eardrums. Again, I kind of start at the bottom, work my way down. Again, anything high pressure, especially high-powered air hose, you want to be careful by your headset, hubs, bottom bracket, and disc brakes. Don't want to blow any seals out, blow the grease out of there. So even though it looks like I'm going over everything, I'm pointing this at an angle that isn't going to blow all the grease out of my bearings. That's my favorite. Okay, the chain is kind of one of the most important things to get all the grit out of. So what I'm actually going to do is give it a little degreaser bath ahead of time. I'm spraying this right behind the chainring in front of the tire so I don't get it all over anything important. Just going to kind of let it work itself in there. Take a rag. Nice shop rags like this are great, but you can also cut up old t-shirts, steal your mom's dish towel, whatever suits you. I just grab onto it down here on the bottom chain. I'm kind of putting pressure on the top, and then I do it on the sides, and I back pedal it around, kind of carefully keeping it in line so it doesn't fall off the front chainring. This is a 1x. Some bikes have 2 chainrings here. That's a little more difficult to clean because you got more stuff in there. Front derailleur would be another thing I would be paying special attention to in this instance because they collect lots of grit and they can really suffer from salt and other contaminants like that. So now I'm going to, this is the fun dirty part, take a rag, hold it down here so I don't blow crap all over the place. And basically you're going to take the air gun and blast out the space in between the chains to get all the grit, grime, salt, sand, dirt, whatever out of there. Maybe blow off the chain ring a little bit too, so we're not just getting it dirty again. Keep going around until your chain looks clean again. Or clean-ish. I'm going to go and blow off these derailleur pulleys again. A little cassette. Not blasting it directly into the end of the hub where the bearings are, blowing off here. And actually you want to be careful doing that as well, because I might have just blown it all over the disc rotor, which is a big no-no. Really want to keep any grease or solvents, anything like that you can, off your disc rotor. So if you do get stuff on your rotor, I'll show you what you can do. Take some isopropyl alcohol or rubbing alcohol, spray it on a clean rag, lint-free is even better if you have it, and just gently wipe the rotor down and you'll get some gunk off there. If I didn't spray that thing towards it, I probably would just leave the rotors alone and go with what just the soap treatment that I did when the bike was hanging. Let's wipe that chain down one more time for good measure. Beautiful. Now when you spin this, it shouldn't be all grindy. It should be nice and smooth. A little bit of noise there is my bottom bracket. It's probably about half dead, but we wait till it's all dead. It's been a long fall of muddy cyclocross and other things that have taken their toll. I just put new brake pads on my bike last week, so another thing that we don't always do during our wash and lube service, but is to drop the pads out, push the pistons in so they kind of extend in further than they normally would. And you can take some isopropyl alcohol, clean all the grit and grime out of there. You can re-lube them with whatever oil your brakes use, whether that's mineral oil or dot fluid. SRAM brakes, Hayes, and Hope are all going to use dot fluid, dot 4 or dot 5.1. You can look that up. Every manufacturer website says what their brakes use. Tektro, Shimano, Magura all use mineral oil. So you use a little bit of that, lube the pistons, push them back in, put your pads in. It'll really extend the life of your brakes, keep them working good, keep them from hanging up and rubbing. Those pistons move a lot in there. Well, actually they don't move very much, which means they can get gunked up, but they can move a lot if you have them treated correctly. That's a good interim thing to do every once in a while. I don't do it every time I clean my bike, every race, whatever, but if the brakes start rubbing a little bit, or if I change out pads, I'll do that as well. Kind of in between full bleeds, which in a bleed you should really go through and do that too. So like now we're just going to go through and kind of wipe everything down top to bottom, because even though I just cleaned it, now that it's drying, it's got some residue of, you know, leftover salt and crud on it. Just go all over the frame. Like I said, I go kind of top to bottom. Hit up your controls. Your hoods are starting to fall off, thanks to the bar mitts. Shout out to bar mitts. There's no way we could have done the ride we did this weekend without them, so they're a beautiful thing. if you don't own a pair, you live in a cold climate like we do, I'd strongly recommend them. There's a bunch of companies that make them now, but the tried and true neoprene classic bar mitts are just fine. They will get the job done. I just started using some 45 North ones because I was looking for something a little more voluminous for fitting my fairly big hands and gloves into on these bars that are very swept out. But these levers are really tall, and they kind of make every bar mitt I've tried so far kind of very tight. These are SRAM hydro levers, so that seems to be an issue. But the 45 North ones work pretty good. They're like they're a soft shell material. I found that they kind of collapse on themselves a little easier because they're not as rigid. But anyway, just fill in the air while I go through this fun process. I wipe down all the spokes because they all get crusty with salt residue and stuff too. Most bikes have stainless steel spokes, so that means they're not very likely to corrode, but still a nice thing to take care of, and the bike will look a lot nicer for it. And you get in the habit of looking at your bike when it's in good shape. It'll keep it in a better state. It'll last longer, ride better, probably cost you less money in the long run, maintenance-wise, which, you know, being a bike shop owner, I should want you to spend as much as possible to maintain your bike. But if your bike is so jacked up you can't ride it, you don't end up being a very regular customer of the bike shop. So it's really in all of our best interest to take care of our stuff, especially times like these when there are shortages and it is not as easy to get certain repair parts like derailleurs and brakes and things. Wipe down the hub. So it's a better time than ever to take care of your bike. It's also a great time to ride because it's an amazing thing to be able to get out and stay healthy and ride your bike, get rid of some stress in a time when a lot of people need outlets. There's more to do than just go watch the Bills maybe win, or whatever team you're into. Get outside, ride your bike. You can just clean it. Your bike is tough, it is resilient, it can take a lot of abuse, and you are too. So there you go. Pretty good. Front wheel. Okay, just gonna take a nice dry rag, nothing on it. Just wipe this front disc rotor. Something on it is still tinging my brakes, so there we go. Okay, now we're dry, we're wiped off. Actually, it looks really good. So now I would normally let it sit a little while longer before I apply lube, just so the chain is totally dry. But I'm gonna do it right now because I'm making a video. One tactic that I've started to employ personally is I used to always lube my chain right before I went out. And however that may be better than nothing, it usually meant that the lube hadn't quite settled into the chain, it hadn't dried if it's a dry lube, or like a ceramic-based lube like this Mtce. It hasn't set up yet to be dry and not attract a bunch of grit and grime. So now my method is to lube after I ride, and then by the next time I ride, you know, the bike's just ready to go. It's one less thing to do when you are picking up your bike, you're meeting up with friends, you're getting ready to go on a ride, and you have to like pump up your tires and remember that you got your Garmin and your food and your this and your that. One less thing to do. anytime I can take things off that last minute to-do list, I do. So we go ahead and lube the chain. My method is pretty simple. I just take and hold the little dropper back here near the cassette. I put it in kind of like a middle-ish ring. Somewhere in the middle of the cassette is good, not the highest or lowest. And then I just back pedal and squeeze the bottle and let it just kind of run onto the chain. If it's coming out fast, go fast. If it's coming out real slow, go slow. I go around like that-ish many times, and then I'll pedal around again until it starts to feel nice and smooth. That lets it kind of work into those rollers. The idea of chain lube is not so much to be all over the chain, but to be within the chain. And that way it lubricates the parts, the metal parts that are moving together within the plates and rollers and pins of the chain. And with it not all over the chain, it won't attract as much grit and grime and road dust and things as you're riding. If you are a winter commuter, it sometimes makes sense just to lube the heck out of it and just keep it greasy, let it get dirty. I used to use like Finish Line wet lube as my preferred winter commuter lube, and I just kept that chain just encased in it to protect it from the salt. I've even known if people have put like straight up bearing grease, like Park Poly Lube on the chain, and then put chain lube over it to make it even more durable and penetrable to the elements. For this bike, to keep it fairly clean, Mtce Classic Original Lube is my favorite go-to. I use it on pretty much all my bikes. I have like a quart or something that was like $80 at home. It goes on all mine and my wife's bikes. We ride all the time, and this is the only lube I found that will stay on my mountain bike through multiple creek crossings, which means it will pretty much hold up to anything else. I think on the road they say you get something like 350 miles in between applications. So, but if you've gone through and cleaned your bike like I did, you need to relube. Again, I would let the lube dry before I'd wipe it off, but we're making a video, so a bunch of time goes by, and now I'm going to wipe off the excess. Same way I wiped the chain when I was cleaning it. Just hold the rag on it lightly, pedal it back through, and now we're wiping off. It'll also pull some extra dirt out of the chain. As that lube flows through, it will bring out some of the dirt and gunk, so you can clean that. Now there's a few other things you can lube, which are will make life better. Let me find my Tri-Flow. Tri-Flow is really cool. Tri-Flow has this cool little nozzle on the end. Somebody trimmed this one down, but we don't judge. It makes it easier to apply to specific locations because you don't just want grease all over everything, especially like I said, your disc brakes. You really don't want to lube those up. It'll ruin the pads, make your brakes not work. So I'm gonna hit up anything that might rust or corrode or whatever. So the little springs on my pedals are looking a little crusty. Hit them, Tri-Flow will just kind of absorb in and do its job. Pivots to your derailleur, just a little drop on each of them, bang, bang, boop. Derailleur is kind of like a double parallelogram. So there's like 4 pivots above, 4 pivots below. Other pedal. I didn't blow that one out, so it's still wet. That's not great. Your bolts, like bottle cage bolts, stem bolts, and stuff like that, though having a little surface rust on them won't hurt anything at all. Putting a little drop of Tri-Flow in every once in a while will keep them from rusting out. Mostly an aesthetic thing, but I do care about those things. So, drip, 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 drip. If you have a front derailleur, imagine I have a front derailleur, drip, 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 drip. Front derailleur also is kind of a double parallelogram, so just if you're not sure where to lube it, take it and push it. Whatever moves, those points with which it moves, those are the pivots. That is what you want to lube. I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, like I said, I would let the chain dry before you lube it. I would let the lube dry before you wipe it, but do all those things, lube those important parts, and you're pretty much good to go. Your bike will be ready to ride. So we do offer these services here at Campus Wheel Works. We call it our bike clean and lube or winter clean and lube. We do an unlimited service where you can bring in all your bikes, any of them, all winter long, as many times as you want, for $300. And we will do what I just did and get your bike back to you by the end of the day. That's a pretty killer service if you're going to continue to ride, or you're a winter commuter who may not have a hose that you can use because it's, you know, winterized or what have you. We also offer it as a one-time service for $48. These prices will probably change over time, and this video will hopefully last longer than this week, so those prices may be different, but that's the generality of it. But my other reason for doing this video is to hopefully give you the tools to do this, because you shouldn't let Mother Nature tell you when you can and can't ride your bike. And riding off-road and in the mud and all that stuff, you know, as long as you're not out destroying trails, is a lot of fun. So it's nice to know how to take care of your bike if you do things like mountain bike or cyclocross or gravel or ride in the winter in the city. Even road bikes need to be cleaned. You know, I had somebody recently tell me that they didn't know that they had to clean their bike. And yeah, road bikes don't get dirty very quickly as long as you're not riding in the rain very much, but all bikes can use this treatment. You know, road bikes less often maybe in the summer. This time of year, I need to do this every time I ride my bike pretty much, unless it's like a couple days in a row. And then I'll, you know, just do the bare minimum, lube my chain and get back out there. But this is the best way to make your bike last and survive and still be fun to ride for years to come. Remember to check us out at campuswheelworks.com. All our services are up there and listed, as well as subscribing, liking these videos, and you'll see whatever we've got coming up next. Thanks.